Atlanta, land of opportunity, home of Coca-Cola, where dreams are made of, well, you know the rest. My name is Aid, and I was about to paint Atlanta red, white, and green, the colors of my beloved Nigeria. I had this one-way ticket to the ATL, a suitcase full of dreams, and enough jollof rice to feed a small village, and a heart bursting with excitement. I'd heard stories, man. Stories about streets paved with gold, burgers bigger than your head, and people who spoke English, but with a twist. This wasn't the Queen's English I learned in school. This was American English, baby. I imagined myself driving a big American car, cruising down Peachtree Street. I was ready. America! My family. They were excited but also a bit confused. America? Why? My mother had asked, her voice laced with concern and a hint of, "Are you sure you packed enough gari?" But my mind was made up. I was going to conquer America, Nigerian style. I imagined myself explaining our customs to bewildered Americans. I'd teach them how to dance to Afrobeat, how to make jollof rice that would make their taste buds sing, and how to bargain like their lives depended on it. But first things first, I had to pack. Now, packing for a Nigerian going to America is an art form. You have to strike the perfect balance between just in case and I'm practically moving my entire life. So, naturally, I packed my entire life. My suitcase was overflowing with dried fish, melon seeds, traditional clothes for every occasion, you never know, and enough spices to open my own Nigerian restaurant. Little did I know, Atlanta had a few surprises in store for me. This was about to be a wild ride. Let me tell you, traveling with a Nigerian mother's worth of luggage is an extreme sport. First, there was the airport security. The look on the TSA agent's face when they scanned my bag. Priceless. "Sir, is this food?" they asked, holding up a suspicious-looking package wrapped in foil. "Food? No, that's just my special blend of spices. Good luck." I winked, hoping my blatant lie wasn't too obvious. Spoiler alert, it was. I spent the next 20 minutes explaining the wonders of Nigerian cuisine while they poked and prodded my precious stock of egusi soup. Then came the actual flight. 14 hours of trying to explain to the kind, but slightly terrified American lady next to me why I had a live chicken in my carry-on. Okay, fine, it wasn't alive. But the point is, after a journey that felt longer than a biblical plague, I landed in Atlanta. Atlanta greeted me with open arms. And by open arms, I mean a thick, humid blanket of air that clung to me like a second skin. I walked through the airport, my carefully styled afro slowly morphing into a majestic lion's mane. People were smiling, walking dogs the size of small ponies, and pushing strollers that looked more expensive than my entire wardrobe. It was like stepping into a movie. But then I saw it. A sight that made my heart sing. A KFC. Now I know what you're thinking. KFC? That's not exactly a culinary landmark, but for a boy who grew up on a steady diet of suya and pounded yam, seeing that Colonel Sanders smiling down at me felt like a homecoming. Getting a taxi, however, was a different story. My accent, usually a source of charm and intrigue, suddenly became a barrier. I tried explaining to the driver where I wanted to go. My auntie's friend's cousin's daughter's house? It's near a big tree. The driver just stared at me, his face a mixture of amusement and bewilderment. We finally resorted to a combination of hand gestures, broken English, and the universal language of pointing at a map on my phone. It was during that car ride that I learned my first American slang word, y'all. The driver, a kind soul named Jimmy, with a laugh that could cure the blues, took me under his wing. He taught me the importance of saying bless your heart in any and every situation. He explained the concept of sweet tea. And you know what? He was right. I had a lot to learn. Arriving at my auntie's friend's cousin's daughter's house was an experience. Firstly, it was huge. Back home, this size house would be a palace. I walked in, dragging my suitcase, the one with the dubious spices, behind me, and was met by a sight that made me question everything I thought I knew about America. There, in the middle of the living room, was a dog. But this wasn't just any dog. This dog was smaller than my left shoe, wore a pink sweater, and seemed more interested in licking its own. Well, you get the picture, than guarding anything. This is Princess, my auntie's friend's cousin's daughter, whose name was Amina, said with a smile. Don't worry, she doesn't bite. Now, I'm not saying I was scared of a dog the size of a loaf of bread, but let's just say I kept a safe distance. Now, I've been to markets in Lagos. I've seen chaos. I've heard bartering that would make your ears bleed. I've smelled things that would make a goat faint. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for the sheer, overwhelming wonder that is an American supermarket. First of all, the size. It was like a football field filled with food, rows upon rows of brightly colored packages, all promising a culinary adventure. I wandered the aisles mesmerized. So many kinds of cereal, so many flavors of chips. And the cheese section? It was like a dairy wonderland. I picked up a block of something called pepper jack cheese, intrigued. Does it actually taste like pepper? I wondered out loud. An elderly lady pushing a cart full of discounted toilet paper gave me a strange look. Well, duh, she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. One thing I quickly learned about Americans is that they love to talk. And not just any kind of talk, small talk. They'll talk about the weather. It sure is humid, huh? Their day? Oh, you know, just the usual. And my personal favorite, their feelings. I'm feeling a little stressed today. Now, in Nigeria, we believe in getting straight to the point. Why waste time talking about the humidity when you could be discussing something important like the latest football scores or the best place to get suya? But I was determined to blend in, so I practiced my small talk diligently. I'd strike up conversations with strangers in line at the grocery store, on the bus, even with the cashier at the bank. Now, I'm a modern man. I embrace technology. I love my smartphone more than my own mother's cooking. Don't tell her I said that. So, naturally, I relied heavily on Google Maps to navigate my way around Atlanta. It's foolproof, Amina had assured me. Just type in where you want to go, and it'll get you there. And for the most part, she was right. But then, there was that one time. I was on my way to meet Amina for lunch at a place she swore had the best chicken wings in town. I dutifully typed in the address, put my faith in the little blue dot, and set off. 30 minutes later, after being directed down a series of increasingly narrow and suspicious-looking alleys, I found myself face to face with a very large, very angry-looking raccoon guarding a pile of garbage. Listen, I love American food as much as the next guy. Burgers, amazing. Pizza, don't even get me started. But a man can only survive on greasy takeout for so long before he starts craving a taste of home. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. Armed with a shopping list longer than my arm and a heart full of hope, I ventured into the American supermarket in search of Nigerian ingredients. Now, finding things like plantains and yams wasn't too difficult, but when it came to the more exotic ingredients like dried fish and egusi seeds, let's just say I encountered some blank stares. I tried explaining to the store clerk what egusi was. It's like a seed, but you grind it up. And then you cook it with, leafy greens? And sometimes meat? The look on her face could only be described as a mixture of horror and fascination. I left the store that day with a bag of potatoes and a newfound appreciation for the culinary diversity of my homeland. Now I thought I spoke English. I mean, I aced my English exams back in school. But let me tell you, American English is a whole different beast. First of all, the slang. Y'all finna, lit. It was like everyone was speaking in code. Then, there was the southern drawl. People would say things like, bless your heart and how y'all doing, and I'd just smile and nod, hoping I was responding appropriately. And then there was the whole issue of, well, me. You see, I speak Yoruba and a little bit of Igbo, and sometimes when I get excited or frustrated, those languages tend to creep into my English. One thing I quickly learned about the American South is that people here are friendly. Like, really friendly. People would wave at me on the street, strike up conversations in line at the grocery store, and invite me to their homes for dinner after knowing me for all of 5 minutes. Now, don't get me wrong, Nigerians are hospitable people. We love to feed our guests, entertain them, and make them feel at home. But there's a certain intensity to Nigerian hospitality. We'll shower you with food, even if you're already full to bursting. We'll insist you take home leftovers, even if you have to sit on your suitcase to close it. And we'll ask you personal questions about your life, your family, and your future plans within minutes of meeting you. So you can imagine my surprise when I went to a potluck dinner at Amina's neighbor's house and people were politely declining seconds. Now, I'm a single man, a handsome, charming, and let's just say eligible single man. And as such, I was curious about this thing called dating in America. Amina, being the ever-so-helpful friend, decided to set me up on a blind date. He's a nice guy, she'd assured me. He loves soccer, just like you. Now, I love a good game of soccer, but I quickly learned that soccer in America meant something entirely different. We met at a coffee shop, and the first thing he did was ask me about my sign. My sign? I'd repeated, confused. You mean, like a street sign? He laughed, thinking I was joking. I wasn't. Living in Atlanta wasn't just about funny misunderstandings. It was about learning, adapting, and sometimes failing miserably. Take cooking, for instance. I tried making my legendary jollof rice for Amina and her friends. I'm talking about authentic jollof, the kind that makes your ancestors proud. But somewhere between the smoked fish and the Scotch bonnet peppers, things went south. Let's just say my legendary jollof rice had them reaching for the fire extinguisher. From then on, I stuck to ordering takeout. Then there was the time I decided to try my luck at an American laundromat. How hard could it be, right? Just toss your clothes in, add some detergent, and voila, clean clothes. Oh, how naive I was. Not only did I manage to dye my entire white wardrobe a delightful shade of pink, thanks to a rogue red sock, but I also accidentally shrunk all of Amina's favorite sweaters. Needless to say, I haven't been allowed to do laundry since. But it wasn't all disasters. Slowly, steadily, I began to find my footing in this strange, wonderful new world. I found a Nigerian restaurant that served a mean plate of egusi soup and pounded yam. I even discovered a local market where I could buy all my favorite Nigerian spices and ingredients. And you know what? I started sharing my culture with my new American friends, and even managed to get them to try and enjoy a less lethal version of my jollof rice. It was about understanding each other's cultures, respecting our differences, and finding common ground. At our core, we all crave the same things: connection, belonging, and a good plate of food. Sure, I still made mistakes. I once accidentally called my boss bro during a meeting. Oops, and I still haven't quite mastered the art of small talk. But I was learning, I was growing, I was becoming, well, not quite American, but not quite the same Nigerian who'd stepped off that plane all those months ago. I was a blend of both worlds, a beautiful, confusing, and utterly unique tapestry woven from the threads of two different cultures. I realized that the American dream wasn't about becoming someone else. It was about bringing your own unique flavor to the melting pot, spice and all. My Atlanta wasn't about Peachtree Street or oversized sodas. It was about the warmth of new friends, the comfort of familiar flavors in unexpected places, and the constant exhilarating feeling of being outside my comfort zone. Looking back, I realized my journey wasn't just about moving from one country to another. It was about expanding my world, one hilarious mishap at a time. I became an accidental ambassador of sorts, bridging the gap between two cultures with laughter, jollof rice, and a healthy dose of good-natured confusion. I'll never forget the look on my neighbor's face when I explained the concept of African time, or the time I taught my colleagues how to dance to Burna Boy during our office Christmas party. Let's just say HR had a field day. These days, I walk with a newfound confidence, a spring in my step that says, yeah, I'm Nigerian in Atlanta, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I've learned that humor is a universal language, a way to connect with people even when words fail. It's about finding the funny side of cultural differences, embracing the awkward moments, and realizing that we're all just trying to figure things out as we go along. Who knew a misplaced preposition or a spicy culinary experiment could lead to such profound cultural exchange? Atlanta may not have been paved with gold as promised, but it offered something far more valuable, a chance to redefine my own version of the American dream. It's a dream seasoned with laughter, spiced with resilience, and served with a side of good old Southern hospitality, and a sprinkle of Nigerian warmth, of course. I may never fully understand the appeal of pumpkin spice lattes or the concept of casual Friday, but that's okay. Because in this city of dreams, I've discovered that the most important journey is the one we take within ourselves. So here's to new beginnings, unexpected friendships, and the constant reminder that life, much like a good plate of jollof rice, is best enjoyed with a little bit of spice. And if you ever find yourself in Atlanta, look me up. I'll be the one with the mischievous grin, the questionable dance moves, and a pot of something delicious simmering on the stove. Just be warned, it might be spicy. And don't forget to subscribe and press the notification bell to follow my story.